Welcome to Intelligent Think, the podcast in which we explore what makes ideas great, how we can make our thinking better, and why it's so important to share your ideas with the world. Plus, we'll be talking to thought leaders and authors about their own journeys and experiences so that you can mine them for gold nuggets that will help you along your path. I'm Verity Craft.
And I'm Christina Wedgwood.
And this is Intelligent Think. And today we were keen to chat about kind of what a book can and can't do, because we get people come to us a lot and say, I want my book to do this for me. And sometimes you've got to say, yep, you can do that with some provisos. And sometimes you've got to say, probably isn't going to do that. So what do you hear people talking about the most in terms of what they hope a book is going to do?
I think it depends I think, yes, it is about what a book can and can't do, but also how it fits into like their overall thing. And that's really what the questions always come back to. I think the most common thing that people why they want to do a book at a base level is because they want the impact that their ideas can have to be bigger than what they deliver currently. So they might be coaching or speaking or consulting or maybe even training. And they can do that with, X number of people, as many as they can fit in their calendar or as much of that kind of work as they can get. But they know that there's a greater need for the thing that they're trying to solve or the thing that they're helping people with. The other reason is, so it's bigger, outsizing the impact of their ideas, but also making them more accessible to people too. Someone that we were talking to this week, she said she only works within corporates, for example. So what she is helping people with is fairly universally useful, but she doesn't run public programs. So people are only able to benefit from her ideas if their bigger organization has decided to bring her in. So this gives a different level of access to people, I think, for the thinking. So that's sort of the bigger why. You may be thinking of the more practical why.
I usually am.
Which is not usually where my head goes first. So tell us more about the practical, what they want a book to do for them and their business, maybe, as opposed to I was thinking more from what they want to do to the world and to their impact.
I think most of the people who come to us say, I want to build my credibility, so I want to be seen as the go-to, the expert, the thought leader. They all use different words, but that kind of idea, I want to be seen as the expert in that space is a big one. And then a lot of people want to use it to grow their business. So most of them don't know how, but they know that, the people that they know who have books have used it to grow their businesses. They might want it to help them get more speaking gigs often, or they might want to be able to use it to get into different clients, like bigger clients or create new opportunities and stuff. And I think the thing that I always just have to ask lots of questions around when people are coming to us is that I have to think about how are you actually going to achieve that? Because a book is a tool. I describe it as an accelerator for your thought leadership. Like it will significantly pick up, it will level up your thought leadership, but you still have to have the car to drive in the first place. Like an accelerator by itself is just a pedal with nothing. You still got to have the car. You still got to have the fuel. And then the accelerator will make it really take off. But you still have to have all the other pieces around it.
So when people come to us and they say, I want to use it to grow my business, but they don't know how what are the practical things that we sort of start talking to them about or that they need to think about to construct that car so they don't just have an accelerator pedal?
Yeah, good point. I think the first and foremost is before you do anything, it's understanding that a book is not going to go anywhere on its own. So it's a bit like those early days of websites where kind of if you were the only one with a website, well, then that was the marketing for you. Whereas, it hasn't been that way in a long time. It's not a build them and they will come kind of thing. So it's making sure that, I suppose from a marketing point of view, first and foremost, that you've got an audience of some sort. So ideally, like we often say to people as they're writing the book, make sure that you're also working on, sharing content, building your audience, finding ways to get in front of new people as you go, so that when you launch your book, it's in a position where you've got people who are really excited about it, who want to read it, who are already, engaged with your ideas. So I think that's the first piece, is kind of that marketing piece. But I think the other piece that maybe we don't always think about is the actual business itself. And are you clear on what comes after the book? So what are people buying at the end of the book? What are you trying to lead them to? So lots of people will put in their books like a link to some free resources or lead magnets. And so, you give people, here, download these worksheets to go through the exercises in the book, or download this bonus chapter or something. You're capturing their email so you can market to them. Brilliant. They get some extra value. What comes off the back of that? Like, what are you then sending them? What are you hoping that they're going to buy? Are you hoping that they're going to come along to an event? Are you hoping that they're going to hire you for speaking? Are you hoping that they are going to bring you in to run a program in their organization? Like, you've got to be, I think, really, really clear on what the work is that is coming off the back of it, if you want that to be the result that you're after.
And for most people, I think it is, because they are largely, well, certainly the ones we work with, largely professional services type people. They could sell a consulting package or a keynote or a something for 5, 10, 15K, or a book for $30 or $40. So I think, making sure people are quite pragmatic at the beginning about the fact that they're not going to make their money from having their book and from book sales. It's going to come from the things that the book opens doors to. But we've also seen people, especially speakers, use them in both directions. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a lot of speakers I've seen have used it really well, where like they'll market their book, they'll try to get it in front of people, and then it will lead to speaking gigs. So like our client, Ellen Joan Ford, she had her book work school hours, which we worked with her on, and she let us know a few months back, I have gotten a gig down in Queenstown because the person who's hired me, their neighbor gave them a copy of my book.
Awesome.
Which awesome. I'm like, that is just so cool to hear. So things like that, and then more direct things where you send, event organizers or people who have speaking opportunities, you send them copies of your book and use it to get gigs, basically. So that's a really great way. But then we've also seen people, sometimes the same people, then be able to either include those books as part of their package when they're speaking. So, everybody who attends the speaking thing gets a free copy of the book. And obviously you're just building that into the fee. Or selling them at the end and having that available as kind of an extra way for people to come up and talk to you and connect with you. Nice. And creating that opportunity. Or some people will do, like at the end of their speech, they'll give away a free bonus chapter. And so that's a way for them to capture their emails, and then they nurture them into buying the book and then on to other things. So there's some really cool ways that I think you can use it. And the way that I would view it is, where are all of the places within your business, your thought leadership, your marketing, that the book could potentially fit? Because the more of them that it is ingrained in, the more successful the book is going to be, first and foremost, and the more successfully you will be able to use that book to have a bigger impact, to grow your business, to do all of those things, just because it's there all the time.
But there's got to be some architecture around the book. It can't just be about the books. For example, what you just said about Ellen and Ellen's neighbor, someone had given their neighbor a copy of this book. They've obviously had to make some sort of leap from, I'm reading this book, to, hey, I could book this person for this conference, to even discover that from having written this book that Ellen does speaking. Like, what are some of those pieces that she's done well, or that we would encourage other people to do to make sure they're building those bridges from the book to other things?
Yeah, good question. first and foremost, I think, is weaving who you are and what you do through your book. So, we don't suggest that you write your book as a big sales tool because it's not going to be a nice book to read. No one's going to want to read it and pass it on to their neighbor. But as you're telling stories about what you do through it to illustrate points, or when you are explaining why you have the expertise in order to write this book, you can pull in things like that, like what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Here's an example of a client that I worked with. Well, if the person who's reading it sees that client and goes, oh, that's exactly like me, then they're more likely to think of you to do that work. So I think that's the sort of more subtle piece around weaving it through what you put into the book. And then there are some really practical things, like actually having a call to action at the end of your book, but even earlier as well, around, if you want me to come and speak, here's how to get in touch. Here's some worksheets to download, and then you get their emails, and then you can send them nurture series of emails to kind of drive them towards booking a call with you, or drive them towards a course, or whatever it is that you're trying to drive them to. That's why it's important to know what you're trying to drive them to.
Totally.
You can put those things in. And like, if I think about most of the nonfiction books that I read, I do go and download whatever that thing is because it adds extra value to me. Like I'm reading a book at the moment that's all about rich relationships, and she's got her download in it is like scripts to use in different situations. So I've gone and downloaded that and found that I am now in her database so she can continue to market to me. And let's be honest, I'm pretty susceptible. So at some point it's likely I'll buy.
But she can also market, a range of things. That's the point, right?
Yes.
Like Ellen can talk, and then all her other comms about the array of things she does too, beyond just the ideas in the book.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's where I just go, think of it as like, how do you weave it into your business, and how do you weave your business into your book as like tightly as possible so that both of them can have a greater impact is the way that I would view it. Which, when I say it like that, I'm like, I don't know that we did that the best with your book.
No, we didn't. I think, unfortunately, because of the gestational period of, writing a book, and then obviously you've got the publishing time on top of that, it's a plus. Probably mine was about 18 months, I think, process. So we'd evolved as a business and adapted as a business in that time as well. So yes, a challenge certainly was that some of the things that the book may have driven readers to before were not offerings that we had by the time the book was going out into the world.
Yeah, and we've changed the business quite a bit since then for reasons that make sense for the business and for us personally. Like, we've focused so much more on books, whereas previously it was wider thought leadership, and that's what your book is about. And while the book is still 100% relevant to everyone that we work with, like I will often still send it to people who are thinking of working with us, because I'm like, actually, you're exactly the person that this is written for.
And it shows, a lot of our why, I think, as well.
100%. Yeah, I think if people read that or listen to this podcast or something, they're going to get us and what makes us different.
The values alignment will be there or not.
Yeah, exactly. But I think probably because we hadn't made that decision to niche down beforehand, the book was designed for a different business, or, it was to tie into a different business. And had we already made some decisions about the business, we possibly would have not changed the whole book, because I think the focus of it is still right. That's still your focus, but probably tweaked what we put into the book in order to then drive people in a different place out the end. So I think that's a big learning for us, is like, actually, if you've got real clarity over the business and what you want the business to be, that can be really helpful in terms of making that book more effective. It doesn't have to be the case, but it is one of the reasons why we go, actually, it's good to have been in business for several years. Not that we weren't, but, over a decade. But it's good to have been in business and be pretty clear about, this is what I'm selling and who I'm selling it to, before you write your book, or at least get clear on that while you're writing your book, so that it can have more of that impact. If we bring it back to what you said right at the start, which is that for most people that we work with anyway, not necessarily everyone who writes a book, but for most people that we work with, what they're trying to do is really have an impact and help more people. How do you think about that when you are working with someone on a book? Like, what are you doing with them, asking them, thinking about in order to actually help them have that impact, do you think?
I think it comes back to the reader journey that we talk about lots. So where do they want to move readers from and to over the course of their book? And that's where they're going to, you know, see the little glimmers of success when they get feedback at the end that, you know, they changed someone's thinking or they drove them to take some kind of action. So I think it's holding their why and their sort of purpose for the work they do, but that as it is aligned to their book as well, kind of as a North Star through the whole process. But it's the thing that we keep coming back to as we work out what does and doesn't go in the book, and even some of the decisions later on, so not the content of the book itself, but how they might publish it, or what aspects of marketing are they going to lean into more heavily. That all comes back to what change or impact they're trying to create, I think. And you know, even something as simple as are they trying to hold out for a traditional publisher, which is getting increasingly difficult anyway, but, you know, say they are, versus they're going to self-publish or use a hybrid publisher. That sort of thing comes down to ultimately what they want the book to do for them, because a traditional publisher, you've got no view as to who's bought it in a bookstore, whereas if you've controlled some of the sales channels, or you've got at least split distribution and some of the people are buying it directly through somewhere that you are in control of, then you're capturing that information. They can go into that ecosystem. You're not as heavily relying on the fact that they're going to download the thing or take the piece of action that's in the book. They actually enter your sort of thought leadership world simply by buying it, as opposed to by doing what you've asked them to when they've read it.
Well, I think that what that sparks for me is that there's almost the two pieces of impact. There's the, you know, what they actually get when they read the book. So for the people who are reading the book, what's the impact on them? What's the transformation? But in order to have a bigger impact on more people, how are you getting that book into as many hands as possible? And so I think then the question becomes, okay, well, is it more important that you are selling lots of copies of the book, for example, or is it more important that people are reading it? So Ellen, again, as an example, has made her ebook free. And so when she speaks, people can get a free copy of the ebook by using the QR code. She gets their details, but also more people are getting to read the book.
Yeah.
And for her, because she's wanting to really start a movement as opposed to, like, she wants it to lead to work and she wants more speaking and all of that, but it's really about driving the ideas and creating some kind of change so that our organizations are better suited to working parents and everyone. She's like, I just want to give it away for free because I want people to read it. And so I think that's where it also comes back to, well, what's your purpose? What's your why for writing this? Is it to get it into as many hands as possible? Because I know that once they read it, it's going to have an impact and many of them will come back and work with me. Or is it, I want to sell as many copies as possible. I want this to be part of my kind of ecosystem. I want to, you know, not necessarily make a huge amount of income, but make something from it. And so being really clear on some of those decisions, I think also will help you go, this is where I want to put my effort. This is where I should focus. Because again, if it's just sitting there, it's not going to impact anyone if nobody's reading it. No. So you've still got to get it in front of people. All right. Well, I never know how to finish these things.
Like, are we done? I'm not sure.
It feels like a good place to start. So you have been listening to Intelligent Think with Verity Craft and Christina Wedgwood. Thank you to Lochana Media for our video production, Jeff Ong for our theme music, and to you for listening.